For centuries, their stories were buried, their names erased, their greatness ignored, but not here. Welcome to Black History Unlocked, where we uncover the truth, one legend at a time. Before we begin, hit subscribe, like, and share to help bring these forgotten voices back to life. The year is 1770. The place is Paris, the glittering, arrogant heart of the Age of Enlightenment. On the fencing floor of the renowned La Boussière Academy, all eyes are fixed on a young man of exceptional grace, strength, and skill. His name is Joseph Bologna, but to the aristocratic crowds, he is already becoming known by his father's honorary title, the Chevalier de Saint. Born on Christmas Day in 1745, Joseph's origins were a world away from the gilded salons of the French capital. His mother was Nanin, an enslaved Senegalese woman on the island of Guadeloupe. His father was George Bologna de Saint, a wealthy plantation owner and nobleman. Their love story, complicated and fraught, produced a son whose life would defy every social boundary of the age. In 1753, young Joseph, just 7 years old, was brought to France. His father secured him a privileged education, shielding him from the harshest realities of the Code Noir, the laws governing the lives of people of African descent in the colonies. He was meant for a life of refinement, and the sword was his first destiny. By the time he was 17, he was proclaimed the finest swordsman in all of Europe. The famous duel with the veteran fencing master, Picard, solidified his reputation. Picard, who had publicly mocked him as a Boussière's upstart mulatto, was humiliatingly defeated. Joseph's victory was a triumph not just of skill, but of dignity over prejudice. Yet, the sword was not his only virtuosity. We know little of his early musical education, but the whispers in Paris soon changed from the clang of steel to the soaring sound of the violin. Joseph Bologna, the champion fencer, was also a musical prodigy. His talent drew the attention of Francois-Joseph Gassac, a leading composer and conductor. By 1769, St. George's was the first violin in Gassac's elite orchestra, Le Concert des Amateurs, the Concert of the Amateurs. His public debut in 1772, performing his own pair of violin concertos, was a sensation. Here was music of startling innovation, fusing the old Baroque styles with the clarity and fire of the emerging classical era. When Gassac left to form a new ensemble, the transition was clear and inevitable. Joseph Bologna, the Chevalier de Saint, took up the baton and became the director of one of the finest orchestras in Europe. This was the peak of his social ascendance. The once enslaved boy from Guadeloupe was now a nobleman and an artistic powerhouse, conducting his orchestra in the grand halls of Paris. His music was celebrated. His presence in high society was undisputed. He counted among his admirers Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France herself, who often requested his presence at Versailles. But prestige did not mean equality. The barriers of race were high, even for a figure as celebrated as St. George's. In 1776, a singular opportunity arose: the directorship of the prestigious Paris Opera, the musical heart of France. St. George's was the obvious, qualified choice. His name was proposed. But three of the opera's leading prima donnas submitted a petition to the Queen, stating they could not submit to the orders of a mulatto. The setback was a crushing reminder of the ceiling glass, reinforced by centuries of prejudice. The Chevalier de Saint, the most accomplished man in Europe, was denied the pinnacle of his musical career because of the color of his skin. Yet, the setback did not silence him. He merely shifted his focus, composing his own operas, including the successful Lament Anonymous, The Anonymous Lover, and continuing to lead his orchestra, which would soon evolve into Les Concerts Olympiques. He was, for a moment, an artist, an athlete, and a celebrity unlike any other. But the drums of revolution were beginning to sound, and they would demand a different kind of virtuosity. The Chevalier's musical legacy deepened. In the 1780s, he became a central figure in the cultural life of Paris, an emblem of the era's taste. Under his baton, the newly formed Les Concerts Olympiques commissioned 6 brand new symphonies from a rising Austrian master, Franz Joseph Haydn. These are the now famous Paris symphonies, and it was Joseph Bologna who premiered them, conducting them to the highest acclaim. His output was prolific: symphonies, concertos for his own violin and other instruments, and numerous string quartets, a form he helped popularize in France. It is no exaggeration to say that his music directly influenced his contemporaries. Indeed, some scholars point to the remarkable similarities between St. George's Violin Concerto Op. 7, No. 1 and Mozart's famous Symphonie Concertante, composed the very next year. The man often dismissed as the Black Mozart may, in fact, have been the one setting the musical pace. The artistic world, however, was in a precarious dance with the political one. St. George's close ties to the aristocracy, particularly the Duke of Orleans, one of the wealthiest and most progressive nobles, afforded him protection and opportunity. He served as the Duke's lieutenant of the hunt, an elevated and trusted position, and directed the music at the Marquise de Montesson's private theatre. These aristocratic connections, while necessary for his career, placed him squarely on the wrong side of the coming storm. As the air thickened with revolutionary fervor, St. George's, the man who had fought for his honor with the sword, understood that a greater fight was at hand. He spent time in England, giving fencing demonstrations and concerts alongside the Prince of Wales, and in the burgeoning abolitionist circles. He was a champion of liberty long before the Bastille fell. When he returned to France, the monarchy was crumbling. The aristocrat and Queen's favorite made a profound choice. He sided with the Republic. In 1790, he joined the National Guard in Lille. By 1792, he was colonel of the Legion St. George's, the first all-black regiment in the French army, comprised of men of color and mixed descent. This was his true and untold baton, the one he wielded to command men and fight for the ideals of the revolution. He fought with courage and distinction, successfully driving back Austrian forces in Belgium. His second-in-command was none other than Thomas Alexandre Dumas, the father of the famous author of The Three Musketeers. Together, the two men of color from the colonies became military heroes of the Republic. But the revolution was a capricious mistress. The Reign of Terror was a time of suspicion, and St. George's past association with the monarchy, particularly the Orleans family, became a fatal liability. In 1793, Joseph Bologna was arrested on trumped-up charges of misusing public funds and imprisoned without trial for nearly a year. The man who had been a symbol of French cultural supremacy, a fencer, a conductor, and a war hero, now sat in a cell, his legacy already starting to be erased. He was a victim of the very revolution he had risked his life to serve. Joseph Bologna was eventually released from prison, broken but not defeated. His regiment was disbanded. He could not return to the high society orchestras of old. The political climate remained perilous. His thoughts turned to the place of his birth, a place still bound by the chains of slavery. He sailed to Saint-Domingue, the present-day Haiti, in the midst of its own monumental slave-led revolution. His role there is debated, but his commitment to the cause of abolition was absolute. He was a revolutionary, a soldier, and an artist who saw the fight for liberty as universal. Upon his return to Paris in 1797, he attempted to rebuild his musical life, taking up the baton once more to direct a new ensemble, Le Cercle de l'Harmonie. He was a man out of time, his brilliance dimmed by war and imprisonment, his health failing. 2 years later, on June 10, 1799, Joseph Bologna, Chevalier de Saint, died in relative obscurity in Paris. He was 53. And then, the unthinkable happened. Much of his work, his vibrant, elegant, and innovative compositions, was lost during the upheaval of the Revolution. It was not just a natural forgetting. It was an act of deliberate, systemic erasure. A government decree ordered the destruction of his opera scores. His remarkable story was buried beneath the political agendas and racial prejudices that he had spent his life battling. The untold baton was dropped, and the music faded into silence. For over a century, the man who was called the God of Arms and who premiered Haydn's symphonies, the man admired by Marie Antoinette and feared by champion fencers, was reduced to a footnote, often remembered only as the Black Mozart, a title that minimizes his unique genius and his place in history. Today, Joseph Bologna's music is finally being rediscovered. His symphonies, concertos, and operas are being performed and recorded by the world's leading ensembles. Scholars and biographers are piecing together the true, remarkable arc of his life, celebrating him not for his proximity to white genius, but for his own groundbreaking achievements. He was the son of a slave who became a nobleman. He was the most feared swordsman who became a celebrated conductor. He was an aristocrat who became a colonel of a Black Legion in the French Revolution. Joseph Bologna, Chevalier de Saint, was not merely a figure of forgotten history. He was a superstar in his own time, a trailblazer who embodied the very highest ideals of the Enlightenment, even as he was denied its full promise. His story is a testament to the power of genius to transcend every barrier, and a vital reminder that the true canon of classical music is far richer and more diverse than we were ever told. The untold baton is finally back in hand, and the music rings clear for all to hear.
Make sure to subscribe, like, and share this journey because history deserves to be heard.